Hey guys, welcome back. We have got the floors in. We have done some transitions. We've done a number of things, but you may not realize this, but some of the finishing touches and final steps are the things that are going to take this from kind of a mediocre makeover of a space to a really great project. And so as I was putting this trim on the wall, I thought I'd take a second to show you a handful of things. The first one, we changed the height of our floor. So the trim that needs to go back on the wall is going to be a little bit lower. Now in most places that means that you're going to need to get out the paint that you had on the walls before, take a quick small little roller. I like to use the little 4-inch roller that's just got the single bar cage on it because it's a nice cheap solution, and just run a quick bead while the floors are up and you can't damage your finished product, and just roll a coat of paint on there. You're also probably going to want to take something like a 5-in-1 tool or a scraper and just clean off any extra caulk that's on there so that when you come back you have a nice finished product. The next thing you're going to want to do, we're using the old trim. Now, it's a good opportunity for you to replace the trim. If it's a small space, it's only going to cost you a couple $100 to get enough materials and somebody in there to actually make the replacements that you might want, and it'll really add some value to the finished product. If not, paint the old trim. Take a second to get a couple of quarts of white paint, lay them out in the garage on a tarp, and just roll or brush on a fresh coat of white paint to make your space just look that much brighter, especially in contrast to our reclaimed barnwood style floor that we just put down. The last thing I want to tell you guys about, actually I got a couple more things. You're going to see here that I've got a number 4 on this guy. So something that professionals are going to do when they take trim off the wall is they're going to numerically itemize all of their pieces of trim that are going to go right back up. Now we painted over the numbers that match this that I wrote on the wall, but I still did it in a successive order. So I went clockwise from one corner and I started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. When I went to a separate space, like our landing, I'm either going to start with 10 or 20 if I can do that to indicate that it's a separate space, or I'm just going to put a letter next to it. So for landing, I put L1, L2, L3, L4, etc. Just helps me to separate it out so that when I have painted all these and they're just laying in a big matchstick pile, I can identify a little bit better where exactly they go instead of trying to stack every single piece that looks pretty close to the right length against the wall, having to tear something off. The last tip I'm going to give you, if you're shooting this back on the wall, make sure that your gun is set to the right pressure. We originally started with my gun at 85 PSI. We had to knock it down to 70 so that it wasn't blowing completely through the wall. I'm using a 15 gauge nailer that's set at that. It's a standard 34 degree 15 gauge nailer. You can also use a 16. You can get your fine tuning in there by adjusting this little dial that raises or lowers the guard and allows you to shoot either just a slight bit deeper or just a little more shallow. Only the last thing that I got. I know I've talked a bunch here, but just give me a second. The framing on this wall has a plate that is a flat piece of 2x4 or 2x6, depending on if it's an interior or exterior wall. So that gives you 1.5 inches from the ground that's solid wood behind this drywall to shoot to. So when you shoot this, a lot of people want that top piece to be nice and tight and they want to shoot this direction. You're not going to hit any wood there. If you want this to go solid on the wall, once you light it up, you need to shoot it somewhere towards the middle or the bottom. A nice thing is to hide it right in this little groove here, but you're definitely going to have to come back with some caulk and a brush to touch up just a little bit after you've shot this on the wall. But if you can keep this either downward or at a lower angle so that you can hit that bottom 1.5 inch plate, it's going to make sure that your trim sits nice and tight against the wall. You can see that we've got a little bit of overage here. We're going to come back with caulk, see if that covers it up. If it doesn't, we'll come back and we'll cut in this paint on this wall color so that we can finish off the project nice and tidy. I just wanted to show you something real quick. I got here where I had set the depth on my nail gun a little bit too shallow, and so I have a nail that's sticking out. And some people might just go, oh, I don't know how to fix that, so I'm just going to paint over it. That's a terrible solution. Handy little trick. And if you've done this for a while or you're around it, you're going to know about this, so forgive me if I'm repeating it to you. But this little tool here is called a nail set. And you can see that it's got an end you can give a good smack to, and then it's got an end that's got a little bit of a concave shape to it. And what it does is it allows you to grab that nail and just drive it in there a little deeper without doing more damage. There's several like this. They have larger and smaller tips depending on what gauge of nail you're trying to knock in. But you can see I just buried that flat. I didn't make a bigger hole, and now I can caulk and paint over that, and no one will ever know that when I shot that nail it was shallow. So that's a little tip for you. It's called a nail set. You can get them in a pack or you can get them individually. We'll put a link up for you.